Hello, welcome back to my channel Hasty Books. I'm Camilla, and today we are a week before the reveal of the Booker Prize winner for 2025. And so I am doing a review of the books that I've read, giving you my ranking and my personal ranking, who I hope wins and who I think will win. So let's start with some admin-y things at the beginning. So basically out of the 13, I've finished 9. I'm in the middle of reading a 10th, and there are 3 that I did not read. The first one was Flesh, which from the beginning I was like, this doesn't really appeal to me. I don't think that that's my kind of book. I like to push myself out of my comfort zone when I read for prizes, but I just knew that I'm not interested. You know what? That's okay. Not all books are for everyone. And while I've been surprised in the past, here we are. I didn't put a hold on it, and by the time it was shortlisted, I was not gonna get my hands on it before the prize was announced. So here we are. A friend of mine did read it. She said it was quite good, very experimental, a bit weird, but she, I think, overall enjoyed it. So that's good. The other 2 are The South and One Boat, both of which I just had struggled to get my hands on. You know, I've sort of been reading in order of getting my hands on books, library holds and other things, and those 2 I just didn't. And by the time they were not shortlisted, I was like, well, I guess they are off my list now. So those are the 3 that I did not read. So keeping that into consideration, I did a ranking of the 10 other books. So I'm gonna give you a ranking of all 10, and then obviously then a ranking of the shortlist. You'll be able to assume the shortlist when I tell you the long list. You know what? We're gonna go in ascending order. So we're gonna start with the 10th book, the one at the bottom of my personal ranking of these books, and it is The Rest of Our Lives. Yeah, I'm actually really surprised this was shortlisted, and I know I'd seen a lot of commentary online where people were like, really, that's the book of all the other ones that, you know, there's a lot of more interesting books on this list. I was just a bit bored by it. I was just like, why? I don't know. It reminded me, and I know this is just me being a bit cynical, but it reminded me a bit of the Dolly Alderton book, where it's like this guy, this like loser guy who doesn't understand why his girlfriend broke up with him the whole time, and he's just being quite sad about it the whole book. It reminded me a little bit about that from the perspective of this, and I do think that the author was a bit aware of this character not being completely self-aware. Yeah, I was just could not care for this, basically. In number 9, I put Misinterpretation, which I thought was an interesting concept, but I just don't think it really went to its full potential. There was storylines and like ideas that I don't think were explored or like did not go anywhere. And overall, I was like, why do I care about this? Why is she making those decisions? I like the idea of like between cultures of not belonging and language being involved in that, you know, the way you express yourself. But I just don't think it went anywhere. So for me, that just didn't really, I failed to connect because of that. In number 8, I put Audition, which I think might be a bit of controversial. I feel it seems to have been well liked, and also it's been shortlisted. I think to me it was a little bit, again, at times abstract. I didn't fully understand what was going on from the 2 different parts. I think I sort of cared, like I liked both of them, but then together I don't think it worked for me. Like, and also there was a point where I was reading it where I just didn't want to dig deeper, and also I did feel like some of the stuff was a bit superficial because it is so short. So yeah, again, one that I just failed to connect with. In number 7, I put Endling. I actually enjoyed this. I thought it was an interesting concept, and then I enjoyed all the bits about the characters that are within Ukraine and, you know, participating in this like bridal thing, and then they want to have a bit of a, you know, make a bit of a political statement with like kidnapping these men, and then there's the scientist that's like, what about the snails? I thought some of it was quite powerful. I really did not enjoy the meta stuff, and I could see why she was doing it, and I could see like the literary, like experimental fiction through it all, but I did think, to me, it just really took me out of it in a way that I don't think was positive to my experience of the book. And also I feel like it kept removing me from connecting more with the story. And I understand for the author, clearly there's something about, you know, using this for fiction and like how can I represent. But then I think that's just part of a lot of fiction, and I just don't know what that added to this particular book. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of me not understanding stuff and also not caring enough to understand it. I did study literature, I swear. I can think hard about books, but some of this I just failed to connect so much that I didn't want to think about it more. I just couldn't wait for these books to be over. So yeah. In number 6, I put Universality, and you know what? I actually enjoyed this book. It is really definitely nowhere as good as Assembly, her first book. So I do feel like maybe she was trying to do something bigger. I don't know that it had as much force, but then it was sort of like longlisted for this prize. So clearly, you know, people paid attention to it. I do think the book suffered a little bit too much for being a satire, and I do think that through it, like trying to decipher like something is maybe a bit difficult. And I do think, well, I think there's a lot of rhetoric around the world like this, but some of this stuff felt very British centric as well, which obviously it is. So for me, I enjoyed it when I read it. I read it in one day, and I earlier this year, and I was just like, oh, okay, there's a lot to it, and it was just like the political thought was interesting. So that's why it's quite high on my list, because I think actually it did something interesting. It's very short, but I could see why it's not everyone's cup of tea, and I think it does diverges from Assembly, which I thought was really, really strong. So yeah, but with the Natasha Brown, I just look forward to seeing her next book, you know. In number 5, I put The Land in Winter. I put this one in, I feel like I put this one here a little bit because I thought it was a good book, but I think I like failed to find other books that potentially were stronger narratively, and I do think that that one was less experimental than a lot of the other ones, so maybe that's also why it felt like a little bit easier to rate in that sense. I did think it was so evocative. There was something, you know, like the winter almost feels like a character, and it's silly when people say that, but it does feel like that, and I could see it and feel it. Obviously, being from Canada especially, I feel like I understand what it is to have like these days, you know, like with snow up the door and all of that. So I could really feel that, and I think maybe that was my way into connecting with this book. I could have done with a bit less of the male characters, but that's just me again. I know like that's my kind of vibe, but they like all of the characters had their issues. But God, oh my God, that doctor. I just wanted less of him. Just generally, I was just like, I don't care for you. Like the minute that he was like, we find out what he's doing in the back of his wife, and I'm just like, I just didn't want to get his point of view anymore, you know? Yeah, overall, an interesting one. I don't know that it's one that I would recommend. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like I'm not sure I got that much from it. I thought it was a good book, but that's about it. All right, we're in the top 4 now, and here I'm gonna put a book that this is the 10th book that I'm reading right now, so I haven't finished it. It is The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny. I'm really enjoying the writing. This is a chunker though. Oh my goodness. I had hoped to have finished it by now, but I will finish it before the prize is announced. But yeah, it is just a chunker, and I've been not that well this week. I've been really tired, so I've been just going straight to sleep without reading. So I haven't made as much headway in this as I could have. I'm halfway, and yeah, it's really beautiful. I feel like it's building this rich world of like these families and this world, and like I feel like I understand why each character acts the way they do, you know, which I think is very strong. But she has a lot of space. She has a lot of space to be doing this. Like some of the other books are way shorter, so you know I don't think you can compare I guess that sort of world building. What I will say is that I do feel like it's dragging a bit. So I'm hoping that it picks up. I'm hoping that it becomes a little bit more pulling me in. Like the bit with Sonia's artist boyfriend guy, oh my God. but I really dragged. I just at some point I just couldn't deal with it anymore. And I'm glad because I got to this point literally a couple pages later. Well, I guess spoiler alert, they break up. So oh, gosh, yeah. But generally, I'm enjoying it, and I can't wait to get to more. So I think that's good, and I'm hoping it would stay up here, or it could maybe move up in a ranking if it does get more, if it grabs me more in the second half. In number 3, I put Love Forms. This is actually the first one that I read from the Booker. It wasn't by interest, it's just that it's the first one that I got my hands on, and I just thought it was really, really beautiful, well written. I really felt for the characters. I was really taken with this journey of trying to find her daughter that she'd given away. Even though, and I guess spoiler alert, I feel like it doesn't really get resolved, but I just felt like it was like a beautifully written and beautifully expressed journey, emotional journey. I do have feelings that this is maybe a bit closer to a women's prize book to me than a Booker prize, so I kind of see why it wasn't shortlisted, but to me it was quite high. It might be in my predictions for the women's prize next year, but yeah. And in number 2 we have another book that was not longlisted, and honestly I had seen everyone saying like shocker, shocker, and then I got my hands on it and I was like, that book is so good, and it is Sea Scraper. It was really, really good, and I was actually not really that interested by it because of the whole like Hollywood element. I remember when I read the blurb, I was like, okay, that sort of lost me there, but it's really well done, and so like I could picture it, and then with the music, and you could actually go on the website and listen to the song. I just thought it was really beautifully done. A short one, but I think it packs a punch. Like truly, that is a good book. And finally, number 1 on my list is Flashlight, and is another big one. So yeah, I do feel like that world building really got me there. And at the beginning, I really did not know where it was going. It introduces the idea of this man that disappears on the beach at the beginning, and then you sort of go back a little bit through history, and you get all the characters as you go in time. And oh my god, the more it went, the more I was just like completely caught by these characters, like all of their voices, and they're quite harsh with each other, like they're family, but you can see what they think of each other. And it's funny because you get like the daughter as she grows up, like you can see like the phases that she has of being in conflict with her like sort of parental, like the parental position, and the expectation also of how they should react, and then also a lack of self-awareness in her own way that she's reacting. But then you kind of see them grow with each section. You know, there's multiple parts to this book, and yeah, I thought it was really beautifully built and beautifully written as well. And by the end I was like so caught with it, like I had like really a lot of emotion, and I think to me like that's really strong. And that's why like when I finished I was like, yeah, I think this is top for me. I mean, that's not to say that this one might not get to it, to be fair, but at the moment definitely Flashlight is top for me. So if you've been, I guess, paying attention, you'll know my top 6 for the shortlist, and I've included Flesh in there, but whatever. Like first, obviously Flashlight. I hope that that's what wins. Honestly, I hope it wins. In second, I put The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny. Again, I will finish reading it. I'll see if it becomes my first or second. Like we'll see where it goes. But I've put those 2 as, I think for me, like the 2 strongest one on the short list. Then I put The Lion in Winter. I don't know that I want that one to win. I just don't know that it's actually strong enough for that. And then I put Audition. Then I put The Rest of Our Lives. I can't win, please. And then I put Flesh at the bottom, just because to me it was not even of interest. So yeah, if it can't even, get on the list, it's at the bottom. I have a feeling, I feel like I've seen a lot of hype for this one. I have a feeling that Flesh will win. I think it'll be Flesh or The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny. Yeah. But I hope it's Flashlight. and I shall come back to you. Maybe I'll do a little edit when I finish the Loneliness book, and I can see if maybe that's my top. Maybe I'm like, yeah, I think that one's definitely gonna win. Yeah, so that's sort of my feeling. Obviously, having not read the whole list, and I'm aware that many booktubers will have read the whole shortlist, or even long list, and they have a better and more educated opinion than me. But these are my personal thoughts on the list. I've enjoyed actually the journey of reading through a couple of them. I wish I just hadn't bothered with, but here we are. I thought it was a good list this year, and I don't know, it's always nice to see the prizes. I get a bit too FOMO into it though, so that's why I've read so many. I should have focused on other things actually, but here we are. Let me know what your favorite book from the shortlist or the long list was. I guess from the long list, like tell me which one you thought was left off that you feel so sad about, because the Sea Scraper honestly belongs on the shortlist. Definitely. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think is gonna win. And yeah, well, I guess we'll catch up next week when they announce the winner, and I'll do a reaction. All right, thank you so much for watching as always, and nice to see you back. Bye.